work long hours. So the second topic will be how you need to have a goal. You need to have a plan to execute your goals. All right. And the third one will be a bit of tips on how you can survive in the concrete jungle, having the right attitude supported by the right skill sets. Right. And then the fourth one, I like to explore the option between joining a startup and, of course, the corporate world. I've been on both sides, and I hope that I can share my experience so that you can decide for yourself where your career path lies. There's a bonus topic in terms of how to survive and even thrive in the corporate world. All right, so without much ado, but before we go into the, actually there's more points. The perfect, so I'll give a few suggestions on what corporate employers look for, and of course the part where we talk about how you can thrive in the corporate world. So, so here's a bit about myself. Now, I'm not. This is not intended to gloat or to exaggerate or whatnot, but rather to give you a visual path of my career. The gray are the starting point. The green are the good days, the good part. The orange not so good. The yellow is the iffy. So just to give you that taste, right? So again, I was born in 1971. I'm a Gen X, and I think it's important for millennials to understand how Gen X think. Why? Because the current establishment is more likely than not dominated by Gen X. Now, if you don't understand the mindset, you will have a lot of problems fitting in. Again, Gen X are the products of baby boomers. And baby boomers are very tough. You know, they live through wars, through recessions to bring us up, the Gen X. Right? So they infuse upon us a lot of their values. Right? No pain, no gain. All these are coming from these baby boomers. So Gen X believe that, are taught from early on that you need to work hard. You need to work long hours. And previously, it would be ideal if you join the civil service, because it's a steady job. And of course, there's no such thing as following your passion. If you want to be a musician, go get an accounting degree first, or engineering degree that pays real money, then you can become a musician. So this is the environment which we grew up in. And so we resemble our parents. Fast forward, when Gen X gets married and have kids. So what do? They spoil the kids. They spoil all these millennials. Why? Because they didn't have the toys when they grew up. Because the baby boomer parents said, no toys for you until you deliver, until you achieve certain success. And plus money was tight. So what Gen X do for the millennials, their millennial kids, is to spoil them. So that's the background about Gen X, right? So you need to understand how Gen X people think, so that you can adapt to their expectations. So I studied at Purdue University. For those who don't know, Purdue University is also called the cradle of astronauts. Of course, also a cradle of quarterbacks, but more importantly, the first and last man from that landed on the moon was from Purdue. So Neil Armstrong and the last person, Gene Cernan. I think in total, Purdue has produced more than 30 astronauts. Now it's funny. Everyone grew up thinking that they want to be astronauts, right? I also wanted to be astronauts, but I didn't become astronaut. But I went to the next best thing, which is the astronaut school. And after I graduated with a BS Bachelor of Science in EE in electrical engineering, I joined Motorola. I first did a co-op with Motorola US in Arizona, and then came back to campus and became a Motorola recruiter. Now, the funny thing is that at the early age, I realized that I had a certain gifts. And I tell you why. Because Purdue is a very technical university, right? I mean, clearly engineering is a top class university. But when I went to interview with Motorola, they interviewed me for the management position. So they clearly saw that I fitted in the management side. And so my entire interview, 2 days of interviews, was conducted about how I would deal with people, how I deal with decisions, instead of solving technical problems. And an extension to that, they offered me a job and offered me that co-op position in US in order to lock me in, and they actually asked me to become a recruiter in campus. Imagine, I'm not even graduated, but I've become a Motorola recruiter. So a lot of even the PhD students who were recruited by Motorola were surprised to find that I haven't even graduated. Now, that's the difference between Motorola in US and of course Motorola here. Over there, they probably have a very complete profiling tool, which I believe something that was mentioned by our moderator just now. So, and I think that so that helped me to discover my strength. And I think that's the thing that you need to focus on, understanding your strength, right? After I graduated, I was not happy with Motorola. And that's another thing that I discovered. Motorola being a corporate entity, one of the Forbes 500 companies at the time, and yet I wasn't happy, despite winning a couple of technical excellence award when I was with Motorola Malaysia. So I left after 2 years. So I didn't understand why, but I guess I figured out that I didn't like reporting to people who are not very smart, or who don't listen, who are not open-minded, which was different from what I experienced in US, in Motorola US. So I left and joined a startup which offered business process reengineering advisory. And this was during the early days of .com, right? Then we, of course, after that, we had a spin-off and I joined a learning management system company, won the award. At the time, it's not called Apita, it's called Amita. So I won an award for that. But of course, during .com, business model didn't count. Nobody cares about business model. They just care about solution. So that failed, and I joined another B2B.com. It's called OIC Networks. In fact, we built OIC's first business-to-business marketplace. But it failed also. Why? Because the solution was ahead of its time. Then I obviously had to leave the company, and then I joined Scully. For those who don't know, Scully is Alam Technocrat, and Scully is a pioneer in e-business. At one time, it also had a data center as well. So I joined Scully and did quite well, rose up to the vice president to become a vice president. And then, of course, I joined Mimos. Now, this is a very interesting development because Mimos offered me a position whereby I could dictate the technology that Mimos developed over the next 5 to 10 years. So it was interesting because I joined as a senior manager for technology commercialization. So I was in a position to dictate what the labs were actually producing. Of course, again, this is a recurring theme. I realized that I wasn't, I didn't like the long hours. I didn't like the nightly meetings. So I left Mimos because I got an offer from Scully, which had just secured a big contract and formed a subsidiary. And I went back to Scully. And that's a fork in the path. What happened next was that Scully reached a point where they could not pay me for 3 months. And at that point, I realized that rather than working for a company and subsidizing them with my salary, why don't I just form my own company and decide and become the master of my own destiny? So that idea came to me and I said, why don't we give it a shot? And that's where I formed Akaltech, which uses a technology that was developed in Mimos. It's called semantic technology. And it was fun because we started with 2 or 3 programmers and then slowly grew to about 15, 20 programmers. So we started doing interesting systems and mobile apps. Then after a while, we were, one of the problems with startup is that as an owner of a startup, as a co-founder of a startup, the priority is to pay your staff, not yourself. So that's the problem with being an owner of a startup. And obviously I wasn't paying myself well enough. And then came an opportunity where SME Corp offered me to become a program director for High Impact Program 6, which is a program that revolves around inclusive innovation. So the agency that was undertaking that on behalf of SME Corp was Yayasan University Malaysia. So my job then was to process applications from grassroots innovators. We came up with a bunch of ideas. So our goal was to help them to commercialize those ideas so that they can help other grassroots or other B40s villages and whatnot. So the fund, we give out funds from between 50,000 to all the way to 200,000. My contract wasn't renewed after about 3 years. So I went back to Akaltech. And I formed a company called BizContinue, a subsidiary, where we became an investee of MTDC. It's a business networking app that we managed to get MTDC to fund. Again, yellow means business not doing well, not green. So yellow means bad times. Orange means okay, it's the worst. And so I joined another startup called iBlockchain, which actually acquired some of the technology from China. And me, being a Chinese independent school, for information, I speak fluent Mandarin. So I am a product of a Chinese school. So it was a fit. So I actually went to China to sort things out. And I started off as an advisor and later offered the position of a CTO. Then I became the acting CEO. Now, again, startup means that there's not much luxury. And when the pandemic hit us, while our products was doing well, I had a lot of a lot of stress or a lot of expectations from my loved ones, from my family, and so I thought that, you know what, I'll let my partners do the running of the day to day, and join a new company, join a company that can pay quite well. So obviously, Server Dynamic at the time was the hottest company in town. And all this while, I actually begin my PhD program starting from 2016, and managed to receive my PhD at the end of 2019. So I was a freshly minted PhD, but I'm not one of those people who loves to talk about my PhD. I believe only GPs or doctors are supposed to be called doctors. So I'll just use the PhD title, not doctor. So you don't need to call me doctor, because only GPs should, I think, should deserve to be called doctors. And so after about a year, working of Server Dynamic, I had good news. And finally, after a few years of struggling, investor came knocking down our door and said, here's a pile of money. Can you come back to the company? Because we only trust you. Run the company like you meant it to be, and then you get to use the money. So now iBoxin has investors. So I am accountable for the investment that they put in. And so now I'm back with iBoxin. So I'm telling you that it's interesting. If you draw your career path, I hope it doesn't look like mine. Right? I hope it doesn't look like mine. I hope it's much more straighter. But that's part of the journey, right? That's part of the life journey. The sweetness of the journey is from going through and surviving all this ordeal. So there's no right and wrong decision. No one is going to say, yeah, I'm going to be this expert in this field, and then I'm just going to have this unwavering goal, and I'm just going to be that. Life gives you challenges, circumstances changes, you get married, you have responsibilities, so your perspective changes. So the most important thing is for you to understand the fundamentals so that you can make the best decision for yourself. Okay, so that's enough about myself. I wanted to give you a context, right? So that you understand why I'm a bit harsh on millennials, but I think millennials have a lot of potential. So let's go straight to the point. Let's go straight to the start. Now, I'd like to share with you something that I learned a few years back. Happiness is a combination of reality and expectations. When reality minus the expectation is a positive number, you are happy. Give you an example. You go through SPM, and then you said, your parents ask you, how do you think you did? And you said, maybe I get a 2A, or maybe 3A. And then the results came out and you got 5 A's. Wow, aren't you super happy? Now, what happened was that reality was that you were better than what you expected. So I don't mean that you set low expectations. I'm just saying that when you expect, but when reality surprises you, you are very happy. Okay, so that's keep this formula in mind. Okay, so now let's talk about why most millennials are unhappy. As I've alluded before, we Gen X, we have spoiled our kids, and so every kid grew up thinking they're special, right? I mean, if you look at today's kids, right, their parents, during their formation years, their parents keep telling them that, you know what, you are special, you can do anything. My son thinks that he's the best gamer in town, but he hasn't even participated in a single tournament. I met older millennials, of course, and more or less they have the same mindset. And this is a problem. When you think you are the best before you even get started, your expectations is sky high, right? Naturally, you're going to be like, I'm the best programmer in town. I'll go out and I'm going to outperform everyone. Then the reality sets in. Hey, there are a lot more people who are better than you. You're not even in the top 50 percentile. So how does that make you feel? So you need to tone down on your expectations so that you'll be much happier. And a lot of people, a lot of millennials go into a new job thinking about ideals. I want to make an impact to the world. But you are joining a small startup that builds small software. You're never going to make an impact to the world, right? Of course, you're going to be disappointed. And of course, you're going to leave the job. And I hope that you bear this in mind. You need to go into your new job with your eyes open. Set a realistic expectation. We'll talk about goals after this. And so therefore, you can be much happier. Again, this is something that my poor dad never taught me. How many of you have read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad and Poor Dad, right? Kids today, millennials today, a lot of them, some of them, go bankrupt even before they're 25 years old. They get a credit card and then they just spend like nobody's business, right? Why this is important? I think it's important for you to understand what important skills that you need to have in order to be able to sustain a healthy career. Now, if you had good savings because you learned the fundamentals of investment early on, you will go into the category of rich dad because you know how to generate income. So you don't rely on just active income, but also rely on passive income. So I categorize the millennials today as either a conformist or trailblazers. What I mean by that is that if you have an idea and you have this willingness to pursue that idea, you are a trailblazer. And I think that is there's a lot of good examples out there. You see teenagers who are now fighting social justice, fighting for climate change, and they really believe in it. And that's both the blessing and the curse of being a millennial, because you think that there's only one way of doing things, so you pursue it like nobody business. So you become trailblazers, but the rest become conformists. What I mean by that is that you conform to the norm, to the norm of social media. You follow the trend. You don't want to shake the boat. You don't want to make your friends look bad, but you get bullied by your friends. So you become conformist. So you have to understand that you have to decide which one you are. Are you that trailblazer? Do you want to become the trailblazers? Or you want to become a follower? Just conform. Conform with the norm, conform with your the people with your same age group. So that's one reason why I think that you are not happy, because you're not fulfilling your potential, right? I'm sure that all of you had a lot of dreams, right? Have a lot of dreams. You have a lot of dreams, and when you don't pursue your dreams, your mind doesn't feel right. So you need to understand yourself. And then the fourth reason is that don't believe that social media is a reality. I think recently there's this news about the YouTuber, right? Gabby Petito, right? And Brian Laundrie, right? If you just look at their Instagram post, you'll be thinking like they are the happiest couple in the world. But in most cases, social media is a place where you hide the reality. You hide behind the reality. You paint a fake picture. You use all kinds of filters to make your photos look better. You good. You never tell the bad, right? Because you don't want to be a party pooper. And of course, social media is a place where there's a lot of trolls, you know, a lot of haters. And so millennials are the digital natives for the social media. And so they grew up with this mindset that when they see their friends are happy, they become unhappy. Because how can my peer, my friend, who just graduated the same time as I did, doing so well? He's posing with his Beamer, he's posing with his Mercedes. But maybe he's one of those people who are bankrupt. Maybe he has an outstanding loan. Maybe his dad just has a trust fund that he never told you about. So stop believing social media, stop spending so much time on social media, and pay attention to your life, your real life, okay? Because social media is not reality. So again, in summary, to be happy, I think you need to be able to manage your expectations about life. Set realistic expectations. You can aim to be the best, but you need to taper down based on what reality provides. You know, you can aspire to be the best, but don't think that you are the best, at least not yet. Second, I think a lot of young kids today are very detached from their family, very detached from their parents. And I think that is one of the reasons why millennials generally are now facing with higher suicide rates. All right. I'm not saying this just to pick on that generation, but I think when you don't have very strong family bonds, and you have very unrealistic expectations of your life, you end up doing stupid things. That's just how we deal with problems, right? And so please don't alienate your family. Stay close to your family. Stay close to your siblings, because that will add value to your life. And of course, be an optimist. Don't be a pessimist. Be an optimist. Be an optimist. Change for the better, right? Because you will face setbacks in life. You might be thinking that you're sad after your certification, you got a job, and then next thing you know, there's retrenchment. Next thing you know, you didn't get the promotion that you crave for. So what do? Always think about the positives, right? So be an optimist. Be an internal optimist. And the fourth one, I think, focus on good habits when you're young, which is what the next slide is all about. I mean, I hope I'm not diverting too much from the topic, yeah, Azamin. So I'm just giving you a lot of useful tips, which I've learned throughout my 25 years of working, and hope that you don't make the same mistakes. So the first one, be respectful of your elders. I think that's important. I know that it's common sense, but sometimes common sense these days are not common. So be respectful to your elders. Why? Because you will need them when you have a bad time. Because you need a shoulder to cry on when you are having setbacks. If you don't have, you're not respectful, no one's going to help you, right? And it's also important because when you see your peers at the workforce as elders and you respect them, that means that you have the willingness to listen to their opinion and their suggestions. And in most cases, if they give you constructive criticism, that's because they want you to improve, right? Because those who are, say, donkey or haters, they're not going to give you any criticism at all. They'll just smirk and laugh behind your back, right? So you understand that. So respectful your elders, especially in the workforce. And more importantly, today when we talk about doing freelance work, full-time job is not the only means of getting through and making money, right? So learn how to save and invest, right? So you don't have to spend, you don't have to invest a lot. A good tip would be always keep 1/3 of your salary into your savings. Live with the bare minimum. Don't enjoy first and then suffer later, right? So you save and invest from the early days of your when you start your career as a professional, right? And 25 years goes quite fast, comes quite fast. It goes through fast, and by the time you know it, you'll probably be a millionaire. Now, how's that, right? How's that for a plan? You work for 25 years, you don't look at your savings account, and on the 25th year, you realize that you're a millionaire. Wow. You can afford to take a break. You don't have to join the workforce. You can do whatever you like. So that's the beauty of learning that. As I said, I had a poor dad in terms of mentality, always never told me or never explained to me the virtue of savings, never talked to me about suffering first, enjoy later, these basic concepts. So never really invested until very late in my life, right? So make full use of the compounded interest, and that will set you for life. Okay, the third one, pick good companies, as in not as in company to work for, but friends, right? Now, in a world, in a social media world where there's a lot of haters, right? You need to identify real friends. I'm not talking about fair weather friends. I'm talking about friends who will be with you thick and thin. So these are the friends who can give you an honest opinion about how well you're doing. Not the friends who always give you the thumbs up. Those are not friends. So you need to know who are your friends, real friends, and keep them close to you. Next one, always be ready to learn. In my course as a product engineer building products for people, I've encountered many gifted programmers, but they never studied programming. But it's a passion that they discovered after they graduated, and they realized that there's so many online classes. They went for these classes and they became very capable programmers. So if they had stopped learning, after they graduated, then they wouldn't be able to tap into the new opportunities that arises from the changing trends, right? So always be hungry for knowledge. Always be willing to learn, right? Now online courses doesn't cost much. Maybe $10-20 subscription will get you a lot of courses. Be spiritual. Now, whether you are religious or not, be spiritual, because when the times are bad, when you think that you are rock bottom, life is going to punch you in the gut again. Just bear that in mind. Huh? Think about it. There's a saying, we've gone rock bottom. We can't go any lower. Fact is that when you think that, then it'll go further down. So life will punch you in the gut and you go further down. If you're not spiritual, you start doing stupid things, mixing around with bad companies. So be spiritual, because it's going to help you in the long run. That relates to the next item. Be thankful. Always be thankful what you get, what you have. All right. Now, I've encountered many candidates who, in their first interview, zero experience, asked for a salary of 3,000, 2008, 3,000. I mean, just to put to perspective, after I had some experience with Motorola, my first salary was 2,500 ringgit. Now you have kids with zero experience asking for 3,000. Non-negotiable. Can I work from home? Wow. So, and when we said no, then they said no. Okay, fine. So be thankful, where especially now, when good jobs are hard to come by. So you need to be thankful what you have, so that and that only comes in if you are spiritual, right? So always thank God for what you get, and of course value your time. I can't say this enough, that I've seen so many young kids hanging out. They spend so much time at Starbucks, so much time shopping and whatnot. You only have one lifetime. If you don't value your time, this becomes a bad habit. Imagine for the first 10 years of your life, you're just chilling. Are you telling me on the 11th year, you are going to be disciplined? That's just not how things work. So you need to value your time. You need to understand that there's time for having fun, there's time for serious work, and there's time for reflection. So you need to value your time, because other people don't. If you don't value your time and you just follow your friends and peers, you're not going to be successful. Okay, so that's just it. That's just it. Okay, and then the last two is that you need to accept that failure is inevitable, because then you have the ability to pick yourself up. Many don't expect failure. many think that it's going to be smooth sailing. And that's one of the reasons why I believe this generation is having a tough time accepting the reality. Failure is normal, okay? Failure is normal. Success is not. So it's the other way around. So you have to work hard for the success. Because why? You are joining at a time where thousands and thousands of candidates are eyeing for the same job. Are you telling me and there's only one or two positions for promotion? So you need to accept, and you need to decide if you that what happens if that happens to you. So you need to have a plan. Okay, I hope these tips are something that you can appreciate. And last but not least, learn to find good mentors. All right, I love to mentor children, startups. I love to mentor fresh graduates. I feel the energy. I like the energy. Maybe I live vicariously through them because I'm old. So I'm already 50. So I love the energy that the millennials project. I love the energy. I love the can-do attitude. So you need to find a mentor. Mentors don't find you, okay? It doesn't work that way. You need to identify mentors. Not mentors just for work, but mentors for life. People who has gone through life, experienced the good and bad, and who are able to tell you in your face what needs to change for you to become better. All right? And there's no point in having a mentor if you don't listen to them. That's the reason why they are there. Okay? Mentors, they don't, a good mentor don't charge, okay? Anyone that charges you, they are not called mentors, they are called consultants. Okay? So mentors generally, they do it out of goodwill. They do it because out of the kindness of their heart, and they want you to be successful. All right. Now, let's talk about how to get things started. Do you have a purpose in life? A lot of people say, I'll just get the first job, and I will just work hard, and then I'll just work hard lah. So I mean, what's your goal? They don't know what's their purpose in life, right? It always starts with a mission. What do you want to leave behind? What is your legacy? You want to make a world a better place? How are you going to make the world a better place? You need to be very precise. You need to know what exactly that you want out of life. Okay? You might start off as a engineer. You might start off as a programmer, but that may not be your purpose in life. You become a skill as a programmer in the hopes that one day you can build things on your own, because you learn how to build things, right? Because you don't want to depend on other people to build build up your ideas, right? So you always have a purpose in life. Like for example, we talk about Apple. Apple is about making a dent in the universe, making a difference in people's life. So every product and services that comes out from Apple is not about being the best against your competitor. It's about making people happy and proud to own their products, to change their life. Now, today, if you ask a MacBook owner, an Apple owner, versus a Windows owner, right? The way that they treat their laptop, you can tell how much they care for the brand, right? You'll see the Apple people like wiping their screen, spraying the screen cleaner, and then cleaning out the keyboard. And then you have the Windows guy who's just throwing around their laptop, trashing it. There's no pride in that ownership. So when Apple came out with that idea, with that purpose, they understood that everything else will naturally happen according to that. So there's an alignment. What I mean is that there is an alignment. Once you have a purpose, only then can you come out with concrete goals. Well, I don't know how many of you learned this in school, but this is the basic. Okay, this is a very basic. So a part of being knowledgeable in this century, you need to not only learn, you need to unlearn and relearn, right? So there's a lot of things that I learned late in my life. So once you have a purpose in life, you can identify clear goals, right? So goals tell you whether you are nearer to achieving what you wanted in life, purpose in life. Then that is followed by objectives. Essentially, objectives are plans, concrete, specific, measurable plans. Say, for example, you want to build a company that helps the poor, for example, right? That's your mission in life. So your goal is to learn about the problems facing the poor. So you decided, I'm going to join an NGO, right? But my full-time job is still with Huawei, for example. Yeah, that's a viable goal. That doesn't mean that you take one and have to put down the other one, right? So you can have complementary goals so that you know that you are always moving in a positive direction, right? Imagine trying to score a goal without a goalpost. Football will not be the same, right? Imagine the goalkeeper has to stand on the line, but there's no goalpost. And how would the referee know whether you scored a goal or not? Right? So you need to have goals. Objectives are specific statement that articulates your progress. Right? So if you want to form a company, you want to learn how to form an NGO, you need to first be part of NGO. Then you learn about the do's and don'ts. Then you deal with the company secretary. You learn, you deal about how to register. You deal with the ROS, Registrar of Society. Then you learn about fundraising. So all these are goals, right? And then you learn about, so not only are you joining NGO to understand the mechanics of the NGO, you also learn how to do fundraising because you participate in fundraising campaigns. And if your goal is to help people through the use of system, cloud system and whatnot system, then you need to also learn the technical part of it. You need to learn how to manage programmers. You need to learn how to manage a business, right? Because NGO that is sustainable is an NGO that has a business model, not an NGO that collects money and run away, right? So you don't want to do that. So from that goal, understand how you want to measure your progress, right? Because if until after 5 years, you haven't even joined any NGO, say for example, you're not getting anywhere close, right? And if you want to rise up as a technical person, say in Huawei, you need to also have that goal. And some people, they want to be, your purpose in life can be, you want to be the best in what you do. You want to be the best in what you do. It's still vague. You want to be able to define what is that best thing that you want to be in. You want to be in specifically the best in network infrastructure, the best in, say, for example, software development. So your goal, therefore, is to acquire the enough experience to be able to inch you forward in that direction, right? Now, how can you be the best programmer if you never done programming? So you need to find a company, a vehicle to learn. And you need to learn from your seniors. Okay. So another tip, I believe that you know about this. I think in school, this is probably one of the most popular acronym, SMART, right? Make your goal specific and narrow. Make sure that it's measurable, right? Don't just have vague goals. Make sure that it's attainable, right? Now, one thing I like to touch about is that according to Dr. Jordan Peterson, the greatest fulfillment is derived from the act of aiming. And that act of aiming means that you go through the journey of achieving your goal. But if you, once you achieve your goal, you are no longer satisfied. Have you noticed that? So the point of this goal is that it is realistic, but may not exactly be attainable. I mean, if you say that you want to be the best programmer, yeah, okay, that is attainable, right? By some standard. But if you say you want to reduce carbon footprint by 10%, 20% for the country, it might be attainable. But after you achieve that target, maybe you are not so motivated. So make sure that your goals are within reach, but you never reach it. That's what I'm saying. Always make sure that your goals are within reach, but not enough to reach it, so that you are constantly motivated. That's how we talk about relevant. Your purpose must generate goals that are complementary or relevant to each other. Your direction is only forward. You can't afford to go tangent. If your goals are not aligned to your values, to your purpose, then check it out. All right, that's not very good goals. And of course, always give yourself a time frame. Not too long and not too short. 1 year is too short. 3 years, maybe too long. 2 years is okay, I would say. And plus, any employer that sees a job history that is about 1 year generally has a very bad feeling about it, about the candidate. All right, so you just have to bear that in mind. And I'm sure you'll be talking to the experts about this, and understand that you need to have a time frame, but your goals is not necessarily have to be conflicting with your career, with your work. All right, it can be complementary, it can be different from your work, and it can also be part of your work. So the two things that I want to leave behind in terms of your success mantra is, don't rush to get things started. Always plan. Always align it to your goals. Is this new job offering you better pay aligned to your goals? If not, walk away. Doesn't mean that a good offer means that you have to accept it. All right, because you have a higher purpose in life. You don't, it's not just about working. So always align yourself to your goals. So in many cases, those who just focus on doing hard work is not going to be, you will be able to overtake them easily after your slow start. Right? So understand that. Always align yourself to your goals, but don't worry, you eventually get ahead those who do not have goals. They just work. They just change jobs because every 2 years I change jobs so that I can get 20% increment. When if they stay on the company, because the company complements their goal, would have created opportunity for exponential income. So think about that. So don't think about just accepting the best offer. Think about whether it offers you growth and is aligned to your overarching goals or purpose. So again, always have goals because humans are inspired by the act of achieving that goal. They are not inspired by easy goals. Because after you achieve your goal, say for example, right? If you set yourself the goal of running a marathon, say under maybe a 3 kilometer, whatever, under 10 minutes. Now, you train every day and within a year, you manage to achieve that, right? Are you then inspired to run further? No, right? I mean, you probably be like a bit depressed, not motivated. But if you say that, okay, I want to try to qualify, or I don't want to be an Olympian, but I want to qualify near to the Olympic marathon time. Now, as normal people, that is aspiring because there's something that you can always look forward to. You'll never achieve it in your lifetime because there's not many, not everyone can be an Olympian, but you certainly will try. Okay? So let's talk about how to increase your employability. So first, communicate. You need to learn how to communicate. And I'm talking about both written and verbal. And you know what is the first piece of information that employers look at to see whether you are able to communicate or not? Your CV. If your CV is a mess, full of grammar errors and whatnot, I mean, there's no confidence, right? The employer has no confidence. So you need to be able to display your ability to communicate. And in most cases, a short phone call from your employer inviting for the interview will also create some positive impression, right? Or in some days now, headhunters call you, right? And clearly, if you are unable to articulate what you do, what you want to do, and what you're good at, is a big problem. So focus on your communication. Second, especially having a diverse, large team, distributed team across different countries. Teamwork is most important. So we want team workers. We want people who can work in a team. We don't want people who work alone, right? And we also want these team workers to be able to empathize with their colleagues. So they care. So empathy is about caring, right? Third, reliability. And this is a big problem I noticed with these millennials, with millennials in general. They are not reliable. They want to have a work-life balance. They want to go back at 5. But the bosses work until 7. You see that? You see where's the problem? If you, as a rule of thumb, if you go back before your boss, don't expect a promotion anytime soon. Right? But I don't mean stay behind to play games. Stay behind to do work. right? So they want to see whether you are reliable and agile, meaning that on some days, the boss will, your supervisor will ask you to work on weekends because of circumstances, because of emergency, right? And if you constantly say no, then it means that you are not reliable. Therefore, the company is planning to not work with you in mind, because you are not reliable. So, so the next, they're just looking for a reason to get rid of you then. The fourth is problem solving. I think today there's a lot of now today these days the interview sessions are a bit more creative. You'll notice that we ask you real life problems, right? And then we want to understand whether you have the analytical mind. And I don't mean that this is a domain of just engineers or programmers. Anyone, management, business, even agriculture, or even finance. You need to have the analytical mind to be able to solve problems. So you need to be able to break down the problem, and then you must be able to define what remedials or actions that you can take to address those problems, right? And then you must be able to recommend them. So problem solving. And the fifth is organizing and planning. So this is the part where I always ask my candidates, if I given you 5 tasks in a week, right? And all 5 deadlines is on Friday. Each task is different complexity. How do you organize your time? What's your plan? Most often than not, I'll get a blank face, right? It's like, oh, okay. Now, what I'm trying to do is to understand essentially whether they can solve a problem, the problem of time, and how they organize themselves, right? And in fact, if you told me, first I would have to assess the load of the 5 tasks and determine what is achievable in the 1 week. So I was half expecting that you can say that, can I negotiate? Can I negotiate 3 tasks to be completed in first week and the second task by maybe early second week? So organization and planning. How do you organize yourself, and how you organize your time? Initiative. What initiative have you done without being told so? Have you shown the ability to take the initiative? If the supervisor had asked you to do a, say for example, a 300-word research, did you do more? Did you even supply your supervisor with other references so that he can also understand your research? Initiative. So initiative means that doing things beyond what is expected, right? So I might just give you 2 tasks, but you actually went on ahead and started doing the 3rd task even before I asked for it. That's the initiative. Self-management. Are you able to work well on your own? Do you know how do you self-start? Are you a self-starter? Right? That is a skill that generally is poor with the new candidates. I don't think they know how to self-start. And I think that also in part relates to problem solving. They can't self-start because they are overwhelmed. So take a deep breath, don't be overwhelmed, figure out how to get things started. without waiting for instruction. Then we talk about leadership. Do you have any experience with managing your peers, working with your peers? And leadership is not just about a formal position, formal role. Leadership is about taking the initiative, organizing your peers, your colleagues, even when the supervisor is not managing the team well. You know, like for example, a leadership means that three of you working on the same paper or same project, and one of you, I mean, you have one senior in there overseeing, but the senior is so busy with his own project that he neglects. So the other two programmers with your team is slacking off. Now, what do? Knowing very well that the outcome will also affect you. If you have leadership skills, you would organize discussion. You would be able to help out the other two who's slacking off. You'll be able to understand what's the problem. You'll be able to communicate with your senior to understand how you can help him. That is leadership. So leadership doesn't just exist in a formal role, but leadership is I would say, an attribute that you display. Learnability, as I mentioned, we are living in an age where not only do you learn, but you have to unlearn, you have to relearn. So you cannot say that just because you never studied this, or you never done a major in this, or you never done any similar projects, therefore you can't do it. It's just not acceptable. Management will always dictate that, well, if you don't know, then you go and figure it out. Right? So that's learnability. Then, how funny is it that you being a digital native and you tell your bosses that you don't know how to operate Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, but you only know how to use Facebook and Instagram? Because you are digital native of the social media era, we expect that tools like Microsoft Office is very, is very easy. Is very easy for you. Excuse me, I need to just shut down my phone. Sorry, I'm back. Sorry. Okay, so technology is all about showing your capabilities using tools, right? And so it's expected that you know technology, or at least has heard of it. Now, a lot of people who are going for non-tech position think that technology is something that they don't need to know, but that's not true. You must at least be adept to the concept of that technology. You must at least be well aware what is a blockchain, what is encryption, what is security, what is a network, what is Wi-Fi. So technology is not just about expertise, it's also about the understanding of how that technology is used. Okay? So again, let's talk about how the world has changed and certain profession is rising in popularity. So when we talk about pandemic endemic state, and we have a aging population, you can be a registered nurse and a nurse practitioner. Nurse practitioner means that these are nurses who go to your house to take care of your elders, right? So My point is trying to show that you can actually predict what kind of profession will be in demand. It's not rocket science. It's all about trending, right? When you talk about pandemic, endemic state, clearly with so many doctors passing from COVID, definitely they need more doctors, right? So it's a no-brainer. So now we're talking about industrial IR 4.0, right? Industrial revolution 4.0. They talk about IoT, talk about blockchain, AI, right? Naturally, software developers and IT managers are important. And as we look at the need for more and more skilled workforce, definitely we need teachers. We need more graduates. We need more graduate teachers. Then we're talking about business changing, the dynamics changing, and consumer behavior changing. So what do we need? So we need management analysts. So you will see a lot of job decision that is actually a mixture of technical and analysts. What that means is that you need to be flexible enough, and that's where the problem-solving skills come in. Because you are adept at, or you have an analytical mind, you are able to break down a problem, right? And therefore, you can analyze. So management analyst is important, of course. Financial managers, because all business need financial managers. A more interesting trend will be workplace stress and mental health. Today, we hear about mental health frequently, especially those who have been working from home and now getting back to work. So what do you need? We need more physiotherapists because, stress, you need people to massage your head, your back, because you're having migraines. And then you need therapists. All right, now, does that mean that you are too late to get into this if this is not the degree that you graduated from? I guess there are many cases where people change their career. Again, it depends on what you want in life. And I believe that the purpose in life has to be also aligned with your passion and your strength. All right. You can't be Mother Teresa if you never done good things and you never done charity work. And you are not that kind of person. You don't care about people. This is like telling people who are egocentric, narcissistic, to be charitable. So you need to understand what is the passion that you have and what is the innate strength that you have. Then you'll find the right goals. So now, do you join a startup or corporate? Let's talk about startup. Now, I've built startups all my life. It has a flexible working environment. We don't really care about working hours as long as you get the job done. So you can work from home, you can work, you can come in at 10, you can go back earlier, you can do work at home. So it's quite flexible. Because you are nimble and small, we can't afford to enforce a lot of standard processes. Maybe we have claims process, maybe we have leave application process, but we don't have a lot, right? Because we want to be flexible. And plus, we don't have time to look at it. Then startups generally mean that you are multitasking. We expect you to have multi-skill, that you can do more than one thing. That Say, for example, in programming, if you know how to do PHP, we also expect you to do Java, and you can also learn Python, right? And then if you are a programmer or you are a developer for one project, you can be a analyst for another project, a system analyst, I mean. So multitasking. Generally, startups have very short chain of command, meaning that the reporting structure is quite flat. So you'll see your bosses, you'll see your supervisor around, you can chit chat with them. They know you by name, so quite easy for them to convey instructions and get you to get things done. It's performance outcome based, yeah. It's not deliverables. What that means is that if you promise to get things done, that's the outcome. Just the act of doing something is not going to cut it. So coding is not an outcome. Coding is an activity. The outcome is getting your modules ready for testing. Okay, so performance and outcome based. Because when you are in a startup, they can't afford to keep people who are freeloaders. Freeloaders are people who don't chip in, who don't contribute. They are just bystanders. They are just maybe the motivators, but they don't do actual work. So sooner or later, they'll try to get rid of those people. Now, how about then? Of course, because you are small, we can afford to pay a high salary, and of course, certainly benefits. So if you are one of those people who are looking for benefits, you can ask them whether they have benefits such as medical claims and whatnot, but generally not all startups have that. They may have a one-off kind of a claim, but they don't have a medical plan. Corporate, on the other hand, is very structured. So they probably have a scanner where you can clock in and out, right? So they have a dedicated human resource department, which will oversee your benefits, your appraisal and whatnot, right? So there's a structured workplace. And you have to follow the SOP. And a lot of these SOPs, standard operating procedures, are actually captured in a form of design systems. So you can actually apply leave online, you can actually apply claim, you can actually apply for emergency leave, you can request for petty cash. So all that is very structured and very systematic. There's no such thing as multitasking. Generally, no. Like for example, if you are in the corporate com, you'll do corporate com work. You don't have to do. User requirements. You don't have to do market research, right? Because you have departments that handle those specific domains. But in a startup, it's slightly different because you have limited resources. So the same people might be doing the same people who's doing the digital marketing might also be doing market research. They might also do design if they are very design savvy. So, and that's a complex reporting structure because your supervisor might be a manager, might be a senior executive, it can be and the manager reports to a general manager, and the general manager reports to senior manager, and the senior manager reports to a VP. So it can be very daunting hierarchy. So you need to understand that there is a complex reporting structure. And in most cases, you'll be lucky that you are able to talk to the CEO of the corporate entity, especially if it's a listed company. most likely than not, you never spoken to your CEO, which is not the case with the startup. Again, the good thing about corporate is that you can hide behind your activities and your deliverables, right? Because a lot of things are, I would say, disjointed because of the various departments that work in tandem. So you can get away, sometimes you can get away with just acting busy and actually churning out just paperwork. Because it's sort of like you do the market research, but you don't do the market recommendation. That is done by the product owner, for example. The product owner will consume your market research, and then they will come up with recommendation and come up with, say, for example, product design. So yours is just you are just part of the cog in the wheel. Okay. So you can actually hide. A lot of people do that, and they can survive in the corporate world for years without really doing nothing much. Okay, of course, they are very competitive in terms of perks. Okay, so you can demand for certain benefits which are very common, such as claims, insurance, medical, what else, car allowance and whatnot. So they do provide you more competitive perks as opposed to startups. Now, so say for example, you are interested to join a corporate world, right? So say for example, the first thing you want to do, you want to research the companies of interest and understand what they are looking for. And I realized that there's something that most new candidates don't do very well. They've never even bothered looking at the website, which is a big problem, right? So onus is for me, the employer, to actually explain what we do. So always do your research of the companies that you intend to apply into. Understand what they want to, what they offer, what kind of areas of focus that they have, what kind of tech that they are developing, so that you don't look like you are half-hearted. And as a result of knowing that, customize your CV according to the company. I don't know what's wrong, but I've seen millennials who use the same template. Can you imagine an employer that has to go through hundreds of CVs and they all look alike? If your CV is not shouting to us, is not telling us how unique you are, I'm just going to pass. Okay? So you need to customize your CV according to the company. And you need to highlight your strength. Now, say for example, your CV impresses and you get a call for interview. Right? Make sure you have enough time to rehearse your presentation. Now, in many cases, when I interview the candidates, and this is evening, right? They seem to be very flustered and anxious and like ill-prepared. It's like they just finished a project at 5 and immediately went into an interview at 5:15. Don't do that, because it's reflecting of your effort. And why I say rehearsing your presentation is about rehearsing how you would explain how awesome you are. Okay, because we're going to let you introduce yourself. If you're going to say, oh, everything that you need to know about me is in the CV, it's not very positive attitude, right? So we're saying that, oh, you don't seem like very keen to get this job. When you rehearse, you will gain confidence. Okay, so always prepare a script of what you're going to explain to your employers or your future employer, right? So you need to be prepared. And be it Zoom or be it face-to-face, always be there early. Okay, don't make the HR call you again. No one likes to be waited. Okay, no one wants to wait when there's other things that we have to do. So always be early on the interview. Now I can tell you that if your interview stretches longer than what typical interviews last, it's a good sign. It's a good sign because that means that the employers are trying to understand how to fit you into the company. So that's why they're asking a lot of questions, a lot of probing questions to find out the fit. And then of course, be energetic and courteous, right? Don't be laid back, don't be sleepy, don't be like disinterested. Be energetic, and the energy comes from how you explain yourself. So if you use a very low tone, a very monotonous tone to explain your background, that's not energy. That's not energy. That's just telling me that you're just maybe memorizing it and you're not really interested. You're not passionate. Energetic means that you're perky. To some extent, we like perky candidates. Perky as in like very chirpy, very like smiley, you know. So you need to be energetic, but at the same time, don't cross the line. Don't call people bro, always call courteous, call them by sir, ma'am, why not? Right? Be courteous. And a lot of candidates, they rush into answering every question. And I think that even though we are ready to give them a bit of time to think about the question, especially problem solving questions, they seem to rush into answering it. And sometimes they don't really even understand the question and don't even bother to clarify. So please always take a moment to ponder your response, because that might be the difference between you getting a job and the next candidate getting a job. Then, if say, for example, the employer likes you so much that they are starting to ask you about packages, about your expectation, always be prepared for negotiating. And negotiating is all about a win-win situation. It's not a win-lose situation. What I mean by that is that a lot of people believe that negotiation is about getting what you want and the other parties don't get what they want. So that's not the spirit of negotiation. The negotiation is all about win-win. If they are giving you lower than expected salary, perhaps you can negotiate on the scope. Right? Now, if you believe strongly that you deserve the pay, then you need to explain, elaborate how you can add value to the company so that that 200-300 extra that you're asking for doesn't look significant. All right. So, and we negotiate with any other negotiation, always have uh, always understand the point, which is a deal breaker, right? And it's not just about your new job, your first job. When you go for second, third jobs, this is a very important practice. Always understand what is a deal breaker. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to show upset when the person offers something that you are not, you clearly believe is below, way below your expectation. Then politely decline. Politely say that I will have to think about it. Right? You don't have to show attitude about it. And who knows, when you say that, they can sense that you are stalling, and they might even raise the amount to closer to what you expected. Okay, so be prepared for negotiation. So we're getting very near to the end, so these are the qualities that I believe I'm looking for. I always start off with the right attitude. If the candidate has a bad attitude, is a showstopper for me, because everyone can comply on the technical skills because of their training, but you can't buy attitude, because in a team-based environment, I do not want you to be cancerous. I don't want you to affect the other team members. So if you have the bad attitude, I'm not going to do. But if you have the right attitude, even though you don't have the necessary 100% match in terms of technical skills, I will still consider you, because I believe you have the attitude to learn, that you want to learn, you want to improve. So the right attitude, the can-do attitude is important. Second, obviously, you need to have the basic skill set. That's why candidates must study the job description offered. All right. I tell you, I've seen so many CV that they put a 10 for so many languages. I'm talking about speaking languages. I'm talking like English, Bahasa, Mandarin, Japanese, Russian. They get all 10. But when I speak to them in Mandarin, they look at me like I'm an alien. So clearly they don't know how to speak Mandarin. So don't kid around. Don't cheat in your CV. Understand what skill sets are required, so that you are ready when you are interviewed. So you can say how you can contribute, because you can do this and do that, and you've done it before. Right? Of course, I want people with leadership qualities. I want someone who can self-start, who can also work well with other people, and has that natural leadership that makes it very easy to work with. You know, they are not antagonistic. They are very complementary. They are very constructive. They are not overly critical. So I look at those leadership qualities. And how do I assess this? You ask. Well, I look at your experience. I look at experience, be it in school, be it in your school, in your university, be it in your previous jobs. Okay, so you need to be able to explain maybe extracurricular activities that you've done before. Confident, right? I get nervous when I meet a nervous candidate. I feel for them. I feel nervous. I'm awkward. It's an awkward moment for me, because I do not want to fail people. But when they come in ill-prepared and not confident, they are not sure the A's from the B's, is a showstopper for me. So I would want to end the interview fast. And when interviews fast is a bad sign for you. All right. So start looking for a new one. Self-starter. It's important for you to self-start, because I can't wait for you to wait for my instruction before you get going. Ability to work in a team, so that you can actually work. You have experience working in a team. Agile and flexible, right? So you are agile. Okay, so these are the most I guess what I've learned on how to survive in the corporate world. First, observe how things work in the organization. Don't just do your work, but observe how things are run in the organization. Right? So you need to observe, pay attention to how things work, understand who are the key influencers, because you do not want to err on the side of those who are making decisions or have influence to the decision makers, right? Understand, so that you know whose toes that you do not want to step on. Don't say no. Don't say no. Learn to not say no, and make sure your face doesn't say no too. Right? Too often you see people say, no, I can't do it. Or they say, well, maybe, but their face say no. So I can tell that they are not really interested. That means that they're not willing to go the extra mile. Seek extra responsibilities when available. Right? This doesn't mean that you don't do your work. After you're done with your work, explore opportunities where you can do extra, so that you will be visible. Right? So seek extra responsibilities. Don't run away from it. Seek extra responsibilities if you want to move up the ladder. And again, show your willingness to go extra mile. Right? Sometimes it's as simple as, boss, I heard that you need someone to come in this weekend to help out. I got free time, I can come in. For me, when I hear that, those are music to my ears, because it means that I can rely on this person. And how do you maintain that relationship with your supervisor? Is by having regular communication. Always communicate regularly with your supervisor. And you have to be proactive, because he or she may not be able to spend a lot of time with you and convey the expectations that they have of you. So sometimes you have to have regular conversations with them, all right? Not too formal, maybe some semi-informal, where you chit-chat, talk about what they did, but at the same time understand what expectations they have for the department, all right, or even for you, because you want to ace your appraisal, right? You want to ace your appraisal, so you need to understand what is the benchmark that they have in mind, right? Again, flattery is encouraged, but be subtle, all right? If you do your work, you don't need to rely on flattery, but do your work and make sure that people know that you've done your work. It's different, right? You don't have to shout, but make sure that your supervisor knows that you've done your work. Okay, deliver, and deliver early when possible. What that means is that always overachieve. Okay, always overachieve. You say, for example, when you negotiate with your supervisor, you might be asking for 3 days. But actually, in your mind, you can do it in 2 days. So finish early, deliver, they'll be impressed. And they'll give you more responsibilities, which commensurates with a better salary compensation in the near future. Okay, this is again a trick. You have to select the right moment to shine. All right. If you are attending a presentation that your supervisor is making to his boss, who may be a VP or CEO, be supportive of your supervisor, not undercutting his authority. All right. For example, if the supervisor said, we recommend A, you don't go around and say, actually, I disagree with A. I think you should do it B. Okay. Now, assuming that the CEO listens to the supervisor, you will be in trouble. Right. Now, there are other subtle ways on how you can shine. I always like lunch hour. So I always find a time where my, for example, in the case of Dato Karim, he always likes to have lunch at the cafeteria. And sometimes I know what time he goes for lunch. He likes to go for early lunch. So I go for early lunch. And he's a very accessible guy. And once in a while, he'll join me. So because I understand the nature of this, the company and what they do, and I also understand what are priorities for him, I was able to strike a topic. I consistently strike relevant topics with him, so that he feels that, oh, you're not just a tech guy. You know the business part of it. Oh, you know strategy, right? And then your recommendation is always masked as a question, because you don't want to be telling him how to do his job, but you'll be telling, Dato, why isn't a company doing this instead of that? Sometimes they won't admit, but eventually it'll sink in, and they will actually apply your recommendation. So that's one example where you don't have to undercut your supervisor and go up the ladder. All right, I believe that's all I have. And I hope you have found my presentation, my talk to be productive and constructive. Again, my intention is to help you out. Any of you who feel like they want to chit chat further, please contact Azamin. I'm more than happy to spare a bit of my time guiding you, giving you more concrete examples of how to do things. And I hope that you don't make the mistakes that I did, and your life is much more, predictable. Okay, so I pass it back to the moderator, and hope everyone is successful in their endeavors and have a bright future in Huawei. If that's not the case anywhere else. All right.
Thank you very much, Razak, aka Dr. Razak. I still insist on giving you that due respect, especially after your extremely enlightening session. I must say, even on our private chat together with the rest of the team, we are super impressed with your presentation and your experiences and the sharing of these experiences, not only, I'm sure, to the students that are here, to the graduates that are here, but as well to us. We are privileged to have you here today. Indeed, one of our highlights, I think, of our program. At this point, because of the extreme value added session that you've brought on to us, we would like to open up just a few minutes before we break for lunch, our Q&A session. I'm sure tons and tons of our participants right now are really dying to ask you a few questions. We've got like some responses on the chat already, waiting to ask you questions. So Dr. Razak, if you don't mind, we'll open it up for some Q&A.
Sure. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Okay, so anyone here who would like to ask any questions, please feel free, not all at the same time, one by one, and then let's just get the Q&A. Okay, one. Okay, we've got a question here. Nohas Nija, one of our very active participants actually over the last few days. Fire away. Where is she?
Good afternoon. Have a few only one question. So for right now we are a new tech, and then we are very can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so we are a new tech, a little bit introvert and hard to communicate with people, especially having a hard time during pandemic and we cannot have a face-to-face. So how are we going to, what is the best way to answer the question during the interview, especially for the strength and also the weakness? So we have from the company, they ask, what is your strength that can help our company? Okay. That's all for me. Thank you.
I understand that many of you are introverts, right? Now, you need to get out of your comfort zone. And what that means is that you need to learn how to be uncomfortable with socializing, right? I mean, now one way to do that is by practicing. That's why I said you have to practice. You have to prepare a script. Prepare a script on how you would explain, all right? And the more you practice, you can find friends, find good friends. Go through with them. You can practice with each other. Practice with your family members. And so that is one way to get out of that comfort zone. So now you're building up your confidence. Okay. Now, as to the strength and weakness question, which is a very popular question during interviews, I find it funny that that most would actually say, I don't have any weaknesses. Right? Thinking like everyone has weaknesses, right? Now, if you have strength, you certainly have weaknesses. The question is not so much to understand what the strengths are and the weaknesses are, but to understand how your strength can compensate for your weaknesses. And knowing your weaknesses means that you are self-aware, and therefore that you are monitoring it. You know, like for example, sometimes one of my weaknesses is I get frustrated when I can't get things done on time. I'm learning to manage that, and the way that I plan to do that is by making sure that I can break it down to smaller tasks, and so that I can at least achieve those smaller tasks and be happy that I accomplished that, and then I move on to the next task and next task, instead of getting frustrated for not finishing the entire task. So so how I phrase the answer will be in terms of acknowledging that I have weaknesses, but my weaknesses are not flaws that I can't fix. But strengths are the reason why you really hire me for. Okay? But you also need to understand that based on the qualities that I mentioned just now, teamwork is important. So you cannot be saying that your weakness is teamwork. I do work very, I'm terrible at working with other team members. That is a showstopper, right? So that's a deal breaker. Be smart about it. Don't be too honest to the point where it opens up to more questions. That's why you need to have a script and you have to rehearse. If you know that these are the questions that people are asking, why would you not be prepared to answer it? So that's my tips for you, right? Always be positive in your answer. Don't boast. I'm so awesome. I'm like the best programmer ever. I can do things magically. Nobody believes it. All right.
Well, thank you, Dr. Razak, and I hope that answered your question. No, Hasnuza. I think maybe she's got a bit of a problem, I think, with today's.
Yeah, maybe the lines the line is not too good. Yeah.
Usually she's like right there. I can see her face like for the last 4 days, right there, and she's on it. Thank you very much. That's actually a very, very important question, and timely as well, because as we are going to do later on after lunch, our session, especially on talentlounge.co, which is our profiling platform, every single thing that Dr. Razak has mentioned, what scripting, the script, discovering your strengths, discovering your weaknesses, knowing how to word your, how to, in a way, compensate your weaknesses for your under the conversation of your strengths is something that's extremely crucial, and that's precisely what the platform and what we are here to do. And you know, later on, as you can see, as Azami walks through the platform, you'll be able to see where you can take not only your strengths, your weaknesses, but you can take your values, you can take your learning styles and thinking styles, and as well as your employability skills, such skills that Dr. Razak was talking about, you know, the slight measurement of your leadership skills, your critical thinking, your problem solving skills, these essential skills that employers look for at the first, actually what we propagate, first 30 seconds of meeting the employer. Usually when you go for your interview, the first 30 seconds is what counts, and what comes out of your mouth and how you say it is absolutely crucial, imperative to the success of your interview. Okay, so I can't wait for the second session. Thank you for that. Anyone else with any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. I want to ask if because as a fresh graduate right now, I just actively try to apply for any vacancy, but sometimes there are companies that reply and want to interview me, but I find there's a very little information about their company, so it's hard for me to practice to gain a lot of insight about their company. So it makes me a little bit nervous during the interview. So I want to ask it, should I just go through with the interview, or just rejected the interview and try to accept interview with company that have a lot of informations?
I think this is the part where you have to use your creativity. I mean, be a mystery shopper. Call in, you know, acting like a potential customer. Find out what do they do actually. You don't have to be I would say so honest and say that I'm going to be interviewed. Just pretend that you are a customer of this company and find out as much as you can. I mean, you'll be surprised. The person who picks out the phone that doesn't know who you are, they'll be explaining, oh, we are a company that does this and does that. Or we've been in the company has been around for the last few years. So these are useful nuggets of information that you can sort of build a profile of the company. Again, if you are you using LinkedIn or anything? I mean,
It's LinkedIn and then job street
right.
and
So-
my
so
future
that's-
job.
Yeah, so that's good. Again, I would say that if you have a choice, obviously you want to pick the companies that have a track record, unless you don't have the luxury of doing so. And of course, you have to give a bit of time. Employers generally goes through hundreds of CVs. But again, I hope that answers your question. There's always ways to find out information about a company, right? You can Google it, of course. Sometimes you find information, sometimes you find that it's a scammer. So you stay away from those scammer companies, right? Like they do, for example, mysterious cryptocurrency. I mean, again, as I said, finding job is, I would say, the easy part. Figure out what you want to do with your life is a more difficult one. So don't just go randomly applying for jobs. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Now, I bet you, no matter what, I don't think you can Google that kind of answer. You cannot find that answer. Think about it in a creative manner. Find out about the information on the company. Pretend you're a potential customer. Those are words that are being shared from experience, Dr. Razak. A very nice answer to that question. Anyone else with any other question? This is the time. Okay, Camelia.
Hi, Assalamualaikum, and good afternoon. So, so one of the things that you said that we should do these and you'll be fine is to communicate regularly with your supervisor. So during my internship, I was the type to ask a lot of questions, but somehow it got to the point of making it. I got the vibe from my supervisor. It became annoying, I guess.
Yeah.
So how do you know when to stop asking questions? Because you don't want to seem incompetent when you finish the job, but you want to make sure you're doing the job right. So when do you stop?
Right. So that is a tough question. That's a tough question because I think depending on the leadership that exists in the company, they treat interns differently, right? And first of all, interns are not seen as a full-time staff. So maybe they perceive spending time with you is not a good way to spend their time. So that maybe is their perception. I love that my interns, okay, when I recruit interns, I specifically look for interns with the skill set and the attitude to learn, because I want them to learn. I don't want them to come to my company and just learn how to operate the photocopier machine or make coffee or I don't know, do some charts. I want them to learn what they learn in school, right? And in fact, I expect that my interns would seek to clarify. I get worried because I purposely make things vague. And so I know that they are not trying because they never ask. So it's really subjective. It's unfortunate that the company that you intern with do not value your time or do not value your question. But I don't think that's a norm, right? But however, having said that, internship is just a phase, right? The real life begins now when you're applying for a job. So I believe that you have the right attitude if you ask questions, but again, you have to be subtle. If you're getting the vibes that you're annoying, maybe you want to cut it down. All right. So instead of seeing like every day, maybe a week, you see twice a week, and try to pull all your questions in one session or 2 sessions. Instead of every time there's a question mark, you go and ask, which may be annoying, right? Especially if that person is super busy. So you also need to learn where to stop. But asking is a good start, right? Asking is always a good start. Don't stop asking. Just be sensitive about whether you're annoying people or not. Okay, now another tip is that always research before you ask the question, right? This is asking me where is the Burger King at the near the house, when you can easily Google it, right? I mean, similar to that nature. It's like, what is Java? What is this Python that I hear about? Hello, you can actually Google it, right? You want to be able to ask constructive questions. Like, so don't ask questions for the sake of asking, but ask questions that allows you to learn. Right? So for example, if you want to get started, are you a technically trained person? Are you a programmer?
No, I'm a communications.
Okay. So communication. So let's say you want to understand how a campaign is created, right? So before you ask, what is the steps? You go and find out from your colleagues and peers. Hey, how do you do this campaign? Try to piece together at least a framework of how things are done. So you are now asking more valuable question to your supervisor, seeking to enlighten you further, instead of him giving you the information that you should already be able to find yourself. Does that make sense? Right. So I mean, you don't be asking the supervisor, hey, what are the best practices for press releases? I mean, there's plenty of press release template out there. How do I engage with agencies? Well, you can Google it, right? What you want to do is to clarify. I tried speaking to this agency. I conveyed this. I give them a brief, and they gave me a quotation. And do you think I should arrange for a presentation? That's a good question, right? Because I prepared the agenda. Now it makes you look like you are very prepared and you're very structured. That's my tips.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Hello, I have a question.
Hello.
Okay, Nazmin.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm actually also a fresh graduate and I'm searching for a job, but the job that I wanted to apply to, they wanted people that have job experiences, but I don't have any, and I didn't get the chance to do any internship in any company. So how do I convince the people to
Nazlin, what line of business are you in? What line of, what's your interest?
I'm actually a finance student.
Oh, you're a finance student. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is tricky also. Again, because the requirements are very specific to experienced professionals. Now, my suggestion is that maybe you can moonlight or find some experience from friendly parties so that you can claim that as experience, right? So for example, find an NGO who needs a finance manager. Offer yourself. I'll work part time. I'll work on allowance basis, right? So that you can learn. And chances are you might be able to find, because you're not full time. People don't have to pay you a lot, but at the same time you will be able to acquire some experience, some relevant experience. So try to identify friendly parties that gives you the opportunity to at least do some freelance work, right? And sometimes they may not even pay you a lot, but again, this is for your future. You are running a marathon, you're not running a sprint, so you're not in a hurry. So you can try this freelance work first to get some experience, and or well, I mean, not all. I would say that would be my primary recommendation. And in most cases, those who would not accept experience are generally small companies, I would say, because maybe they pay less, and they need people to just do a bit of grunt work, right? And because you're finance, right, you probably have to report to a finance manager. So you'll be a finance executive. So the question would be, are you willing to start small to get the experience, right? So you don't necessarily have to go big. If you can find one, great. But sometimes the small ones has less stress because you are not expected to achieve much. You're just there to support the finance manager. At the same time, you can learn from the finance manager, right? So you want to be in a position where you can find people who can mentor you in the workplace so that you can learn faster, right? So that can be true for NGO, can also be true for very small business.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for that question. Anyone else? Anyone else has any questions?
Akiba here. I would like to ask.
Okay, Akiba.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Mr. Abdul Razak, I would like to ask, as you mentioned just now, if we offer ourselves to do some extra work or work during weekend or public holidays, it shows that how reliable we are. But I did that during my internship. I show a strong commitment while doing my internship. But it turns out that people take advantage on me, and they seems to pass their test, and I ended up having more tasks to do other than my daily tasks. So while searching for jobs as being a fresh graduate, it makes me quite afraid to for that thing to happen again.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of static and I wasn't sure what's your question. Panis, do you get the question?
I was just about to ask her to repeat the question. It was almost like a shouting, so I didn't really make out what she was trying to say. Do you mind repeating your question, Akiba? Maybe not too close to the mic.
Is it
Okay, I heard the part where you said, you mentioned that I recommended doing extra work, right?
Yes,
And I heard something along the lines that the company that you intern with took advantage of you
yes,
because forcing you to do extra work, right?
yes.
Okay. So your question relates to how can you practice this virtue uh, without being taken advantage of? Is it?
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So
Thank you.
there's good companies and there's bad companies. Again, I was fortunate that I started my career off with Motorola, where they have a learning culture and they respect everyone's right? And they also preach about work-life balance. So when they see me doing extra, they don't ask why am I? They're asking me why am I doing it? Is it because my co-workers are not helping me out? Now, I mean that is a surprising question, right? So I came from that environment. So I appreciate good culture, good working culture. Now, there are many of those bad companies who are out there who take advantage of people. Yes. And so nothing is enough for them. If possible, they pay cheap. I mean, especially intern, they pay maybe what 200-300 or maybe 500. Then they work you like a dog, right? Now, when you are a employee, when you become an employee, you certainly have more rights. Okay, and I think the Imaginar, the Talent Lounge people would be able to elaborate further. You certainly have more rights as an employee. So the first thing that you always try to get is the employee's handbook, right? Try to understand what are the do's and don'ts, right? Now, larger companies with dedicated HR, they're very worried about labor court. So they don't like people to complain about them because you affect their reputation, right? And they have to pay penalty and whatnot. Smaller companies don't care. So they may do it. So extra work should not be a permanent thing. I believe extra work should not be a permanent thing. It should be warranted by the circumstances. And as an employee, of course, you always have the right to say no. Now, again, how you say the no is the art. So, for example, if let's say under reasonable circumstances, they ask you to work on weekends, you might not be able to work on both weekends. So you might be able to negotiate. Can I work late every day? And maybe I just work 1 or 2 hours on the weekends. So again, understanding your rights and be able to negotiate. When you have a reasonable boss or supervisor, I believe they listen. Because I mean, everyone wants a work-life balance. No one wants you to do all the work and they enjoy. At least I don't think so. But having said that, if you had no choice but to work in this kind of environment, I don't think it's healthy and maybe you shouldn't stay in this kind of environment. All right. Another perspective that I want you to take is that doing extra work for the sake of extra work is not the goal. Doing the extra work because you get to learn faster and learn more is the goal. All right. Now, perhaps you're thinking that this is work and it's cumbersome. But if you think that this is helping you to inch forward to meet your goal, then maybe you don't feel so bad about it. So I hope that helps. I mean I'm sorry to hear that that there are employers out there who take advantage of their staff. But for me, I am open enough that I will listen. Sometimes the staff comes to me and say, my wife is sick. My parents are not well. Can I work from home? I think about it and I said, yes, you can, as long as you get the job done. And then you update me regularly. So again, there are companies out there that are good, that practice good values. So you might want to look out for them. So sometimes it's trial and error, I know, but that's part of the journey.
All right, thank you.
Is that helpful, Akibah?
Yes, it really helps.
Yeah?
It really helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great question, Akiba. We've got we've got also the chat going here for other additional questions, and it's fine if you need to communicate on the chat. Anyone else has any questions? Should you feel that you need to communicate to Dr. Razak further than the Q&A session, please feel free to do so, right, Dr. Razak? I think he's already said that his lines are open and he's able to communicate. Right. So I think on that note, what we will do is we'll have a break. We'll have a break for lunch, and we're going to give you guys an hour for our lunch break, since we didn't have a morning break. The session was absolutely too interesting to even break up for any break. So what we will do is we would like to see you all back here. Now it's 12:41, so 12:42. So can we say everybody back here again by 1:42? Yep. Well done, Evelyn, since she already knows the routine. So see everyone here back at 1:42. And we will go through then the tool, your profiling tool. We will go through each step of the way, and we will also give you tips on how you can make your profile stand out. So come in after lunch for our continuation of From Zero to Hero for this afternoon. Yeah. So see you guys here. Thank you very much. On that note, Dr. Razak, what an enlightening session. We would love to see you again for the future. And on this, at this note, anyone else who wishes to communicate anything to Dr. Razak can say so in the chat. Thank you very much. Once again from Imagina, from the program itself and from our candidates. Thank you. See you guys here after lunch.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
It was so good, such a good session for you to share everything. Yeah, so colorful. Your career journey.
Yeah, very colorful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And I recommend that all of you who are participating in this program to take advantage of this Talent Lounge platform. I think I wasn't so lucky to have such a luxury in my days, where people offered to help improve my CVs and whatnot. I had to attend the Hanok School of of life and gone through hardship and figure out. So please take advantage of this situation. Ask questions. There's no such thing as stupid questions. All right. So if you don't ask, you'll never get answer. Right? Don't expect your friends to ask on your behalf. Okay. So I wish all of you a pleasant journey in your first job. I do hope that you'll get the opportunity to work with Huawei, which is a large company. Be it in a technical or non-technical capacity. Again, I'm happy to work with Talent Lounge, Imaginar, to help you guys to do better, right? So thank you very much for inviting me, and inshallah, if there's any opportunity, I'll come back into your program, right?
Definitely, definitely. We've got 4 more batches, Doc.
Yeah. More batches, back to back. So we hope to be seeing you.
All right. Okay. My first time this slide, so it's a bit lengthy. I apologize for that.
Actually, it's very, very good. It's something that I would have said, things your supervisor would have told you, but you really want to know, you know? It's something that it's like secrets that you would really want to find out about, you know? And this is something I think everyone has benefited. If they say it or not, but even us, you know, from Imagine Now, we've benefited a lot from it. Thank you.
I wanted to go to the toilet, but I had to,
me too.
I cannot miss this, you see.
Yeah. So good.
Wonderful session. And it's just amazing to know that we are just so aligned in what we want to impart to these young people. I think, that's why we feel that this is almost like heaven sent, to be able to gather a group of people from our generation to be able to, collectively help the cause, as it were. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Excellent tips, according to Vinia.
Yeah, excellent tips. So you see how good it is that we've given an hour for lunch and no one has left.
Yeah.
There we go. Everybody's still expecting.
I mean, if there's any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer from the chat. No
They will
problem.
we will share your contact in the chat, Nanti.
Yeah,
you don't mind, Nanti?
Dr. Razak,
Yeah.
you can put your email or your WhatsApp, or if the kids still want to talk to you.
Can I mean, Azamin has my number, right, and my email.
Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
More than happy, as I mentioned. I'm an eager mentor. Happy to share. I love the energy, but so I live vicariously through the Gen Z. Gen X has to live vicariously through the Gen Z.
Yes, we all. All right. So everyone, see you here later at 1:42.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well done. Nice
job. So excited. I can't believe it. So everyone is still here.
We're still here.
Yeah.
Let's see what's on the chat. That's a good idea. Thank you for the excellent tip. Yeah, that's a good idea. See you guys later. All right.
Vinia. Okay. Perhaps I think they still want to be on this chat, even though